the WHO essential test list, which is possibly going to become a reality. Everybody talks about it, but nobody knows when exactly it could come through. And there's a possibility that there could be, essential price lists coming in, or some kind of price fixing when it comes to lab tests as well. And that's a big fear for the industry.
I think a lot of these are people taking points of information and stitching them together to sometimes becoming a story which we don't know is true or not. I'll tell you where this whole thing evolved from. In the pharma world, there is a WHO essential drugs. The government took that, which is only a recommendation by WHO, and the government decided that in India we want to cap the prices for these particular drugs. Now, because WHO has come out with a list of diagnostic tests, there has been an assumption that the government will do the same thing and cap the prices. There is actually no concrete evidence that shows that that's the direction the government is thinking or wants to do. And we have to be very clear that one is a product and one is a service. The same way you go to one doctor and you go to another doctor, and you can't pay the same charges because one doctor will have different training, different experience, different expertise. You can't say every doctor is going to get paid 100 rupees a visit. It just doesn't work. The same way, a cholesterol test in our industry is not a cholesterol test at any lab. There are quality players who provide very different results, and there are not such good quality players which follow very different minimum standards or maximum standards. So therefore, it's not a product, it's a service, and therefore, in my opinion, very difficult to cap, because it would not necessarily be an apple-to-apple comparison.
Okay, but in case it does come through, I mean, say 2 years or 3 years down the line, along with the kind of competitive intensity that the diagnostic space is seeing, how much of a risk is it to growth?
Look, if in any industry, if a government decides to cap prices at one, if they do it, which is a big question mark. Second, at what price they do it. Like, even if you see in the drugs, they didn't do it irrationally. They actually took averages of many of the companies' prices, and they took an average of all those prices and capped it. So they weren't irrational by taking the cheapest thing of a very low quality person and then capping it. So the capping has not necessarily hurt all companies. In fact, some companies have said it's fine, it's not been a big deal for us. So there are many questions around this. I think it's a very simplistic answer would be, if you cap prices, yes, growth will be affected. But that's an overly simplistic answer. I don't see evidence of capping, and I don't see evidence of irrational capping.
Okay. Well, in terms of competition, we've spoken about how there are so many diagnostic companies which have propped up, especially after 2015. So the generic testing has actually become very generic. You can go to any sort of lab on the street and get your basic tests done there, and you'll probably get a quality report. But where exactly does growth come in for an organized player now, besides just volume generating basic tests?
So I actually disagree with the first sentence, because yes, while there are lots of labs and lots have been funded, as I was saying, a cholesterol test at one lab or a genetic test at one lab is not the same as another lab. There are many things that go into creating a good quality test. My question is different. There are so many restaurants on the road, right? Why do we not say that, any restaurant is the same? It's not, because you go into the kitchen, you'll see a different quality of hygiene, you'll see a different ingredient quality, you'll see a different kind of quality of chef.
Even for basic tests?
Even for the most basic blood sugar. Depending on the equipment you use, depending on the chemicals you use, like for example, we use only US FDA and CE approved chemicals and equipments. We run quality checks so regularly that we're accredited by the American standards. We invite them every year to come to our labs, check everything, verify everything, and give us a stamp of approval. We are in the top 1% of quality labs globally. So, when we've put all this energy in the back end to really stand out, that reflects finally in people having trust and feeling like when we go to a Metropolis, we'll get a correct result always. And really that's the differentiation. So to answer your question, quality is not the same. The growth areas come from multiple places. One is geographical expansion. So just to give you an example, like in Bombay alone now, we have close to 500-600 centers, right, which we didn't have before. We expect this number to be much more in the future. So like this, in major cities, we've gone about really expanding our geographical access to be in your neighborhood. Number two, the test menu. We do close to, if I'm not mistaken, 3,000 to 4,000 varieties of tests. Now that is keeping on expanding. We have a research and development department that keeps creating new tests which help diagnose the same diseases better or new diseases which are constantly evolving. So that's a new area of growth and revenue. Third is, for example, we just started looking at institutional business. So like last year, we were awarded a PPP, public-private partnership by NACO, where we have now, it's a large contract. So that's a new channel of business. Wellness is a big area of opportunity which we are dabbling into. So the idea is, as the business keeps evolving, we keep using different levers to continue the growth.
So how much does each segment contribute right now? Institutional, as well as maybe what you're focusing on in terms of wellness, preventive testing, as well as say your generic walk-in patients?
So there are really 3 or 4 categories. One is retail, one is B2B, and which is considered sort of more lab to lab and wholesale business. One is institutional business, which is like with governments and corporates and all of that. And then you have, and the wellness piece is actually part of the retail piece, right? So the institutional piece is still small because it's a new channel that we've just opened. The majority is really the combination of retail and B2B. But our strategy going forward very clearly is more and more of retail. And that's the direction that we're heading.
And what's the kind of capex for retail then?
It depends on what kind of setup you're setting up. So we have 3 kinds of labs: primary, secondary, and tertiary. And we have also collection centers. A collection center is a much more asset-light model. It's far less investment compared to a lab. And a lab is where you do your production and your testing and all of that. So the good news about our industry is it's a complete hub and spoke model. I can connect 500 centers to one lab, and that's fine. And each center investment is quite low from a collection center point. But just starting a center doesn't give you business. It's about gaining the trust of the doctors in that area to send their patients to your collection center. And especially when a patient is ill, they're really looking for the right result, because if they get the wrong diagnosis, they're definitely going to get the wrong treatment, because 70% of treatment is based on diagnosis. So it's very, very critical they get the right result.
What about molecular diagnostics? What about gene testing and even faster testing? For example, maybe you can get your sugar tested at home at this point in time. Maybe technology progresses and there could be more at-point testing. How much of a risk is it for, say, Indian diagnostic companies?
See, POC, or what you call point of care testing, has been around for a while. And it's, whether it's sugar testing, even HbA1c, glycosylated, even your cholesterol, even your CBC. But if you actually look at the validation studies between POC testing and the kind of results that we as CAP accredited global standard labs give, there is still a difference in results. It is not completely matching. And that's because the quality of blood that you get from your fingertip is very different from the quality of blood that you get from as a venous sample. So therefore, they are not fully compatible. So even if you see diabetics who are chronic diabetics, may do the sugar blood testing at home every day, but they will still come to a lab once a month like ours and verify whether their results at home are correct or not.
So the biggest risk right now, maybe to the business, to diagnostic businesses as of now, would probably be the competitive intensity?
India is very competitive, that's for sure, right? Because there's so much money and there's aspiration. But like I said, there's not always execution ability. So my sense is that we've been going through a sunrise sector for diagnostics. A lot of money, a lot of people wanting to get in. Many groups, by the way, industrial groups got in and got out. There have been a range of names who actually got into healthcare and finally realized actually diagnostics is not so easy as it looks from the outside world, and they've exited. So my feeling is that, to your original point, we will see when reality sinks in for a lot of people and they've not necessarily been able to execute as they had planned, it will rise more to the